Okay. So, very warm welcome to all of you, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Let me start with something very honest, and this is going to make some of you a little uncomfortable. The weight loss industry is built to keep you coming back. It makes you keep returning back to the same weight loss pill or to a weight loss supplement or, some sort of weight loss hack that they're trying to sell you. And every few months, there's a new superfood and a new fat burning tea or a trendy low carb recipe or a 21-day crash plan promising to melt fat as fast as possible. And they push calorie counting, detox teas, fat burners, and this fear that is there around all of us every day regarding food that is so close to our hearts, and that's very traditional. So they've built that fear in us for rice or for ghee, and we've ignored the real root cause of that stubborn fat that we've all gained. And what is that root cause? And that is exactly what we're going to discuss today. It is inflammation. The last session also we did was on inflammation, but today we're going to do in depth about inflammation and weight loss. Now, we've been taught that fat loss is only about eating less, moving more. But if that were the whole truth, then none of us would, ever have this question about how do we lose weight. And it's the reality is that we are constantly fighting something or the other. Our bodies are constantly at war and at war with inflammation. Now, I've worked with a lot of clients, busy moms, new moms, professionals, especially in the corporate world, women with PCOS, infertility, trying to conceive, women and men with hypothyroid, insulin resistance. And there's a pattern that keeps repeating over and over. And once we reduce that inflammation, fat loss just begins. So today I'm going to show you and I'm going to tell you as to why your body holds on to fat when it's inflamed and how you can turn that around without starving yourselves, without falling for any marketing gimmicks. So let's dive straight into the topic. Why weight loss feels so hard? And you're not imagining it, huh? There are people who have been struggling to lose weight for years together. So let us take a moment to say something which many people need to hear. If you're struggling to lose weight, it's not your fault. Most of my patients, most of my clients who come to me, they're always feeling very defeated. They've tried everything like cutting down calories, avoiding carbs, working out, and killing themselves at the gym, and yet that scale does not move. Or worse, it sometimes even goes up. Does any of this sound familiar? Also, I get clients who tell me this very often. And if it's resonating with you, please raise your hand or put it in the chat box. I eat clean, but my belly fat won't go away. Is this something that you resonate with? Yes. I wake up tired. I go to bed bloated. By the end of the day, I'm so bloated, though I've hardly even had anything to eat, but I still feel so bloated. My cravings are so high in the evening, you know, like they hit really hard, and my entire diet for the entire day goes for a toss. Yes, it happens to most of us. I honestly feel very stuck, very heavy. I'm tired of trying the latest diet trend also. I've exhausted all my resources of whatever social media has to say or Google has to say about losing weight. Now, let me tell you, You are not lazy and you are not broken. It's just that inflammation, and that's that one thing that we need to take care of. When the body is inflamed, it just holds on to fat. And this messes up with your hormones, it slows down digestion, and it keeps you in a cycle of craving and fatigue. That's why today isn't just about giving you another diet plan. I'm not here to sell you turmeric shots and some weight loss pill. I'm here today to help you understand what is exactly happening inside your body. So your body can finally start letting go of all that stored fat. All right? It starts healing from within. My name is Dr. Jolene. I'm a nutritional therapist. I'm based in Goa. I'm an alumni of the School of Health based in Gloucestershire, UK. And over the years, I've worked with hundreds of clients to help them improve their hormones, energy levels. I've managed conditions like PCOS, hypothyroid, insulin resistance, and most importantly, reduce inflammation to finally lose the stubborn fat in a very sustainable way. Today, I'm going to walk you through what's really stopping you from losing that fat. And it's not just calories, it is chronic inflammation. And once we understand that, we can fix it. Now, I'll just brush through what is inflammation. I've already done it in my last session, but I'll repeat it again. Well, chronic inflammation is very silent. It is long lasting and it causes slow damage. And how does it show up? It shows up as bloating, fatigue, brain fog, joint pains, weight gain, especially around the belly. And whatever you do, you are not losing weight. And when the body is under constant stress, what causes this inflammation? When your body is under constant stress. And when I say stress, it does not just mean emotional stress. Poor diet, poor sleeping habits, high cortisol level. It's like a fire inside you, inside your body that never goes out. Now, how does all of this inflammation and this fire inside you lead to weight gain? When your body is under so much of stress, whether it's from a poor diet, lack of sleep, or toxins, it creates a defense mechanism. And you may say this inflammation is like your enemy, but your body needs to fight inflammation, needs to fight that stress that's happening due to lack of exercise, lack of sleep and poor diet. And that defense mechanism is nothing but it is inflammation. Now, if you correct your sleep, you correct your diet, if you're back on track with your exercises, this inflammation by itself will reduce. But once it starts staying for weeks and then for months, it starts becoming very chronic. And that's when the problem starts. And chronic inflammation disrupts your key hormones, which are responsible for fat burning. And those hormones are insulin, leptin, which is it's your satiety hormone, and cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Now, what exactly happens inside the body when it is inflamed? Number one, insulin resistance. I'm sure you'll have all heard of the hormone insulin. It is released by the pancreas. And when your body stops responding to insulin, it becomes insulin resistant. And then all your sugar levels start spiking. You have high sugar levels. Now, the body does not know what to do with all of this sugar. It has got so much of sugar and it starts storing it in your belly area. It's the stress hormone, cortisol. This is another hormone that starts promoting fat storage. So, when you have high cortisol levels in the body, it is very, very difficult for your body to let go of fat. And where does this fat get deposited? Again, around the abdomen. And inflammation, chronic inflammation, also affects leptin, which is your satiety signal. So, leptin tells you that you're full. it makes you feel satiated. But when your body does not get that I am full signal, so you feel hungrier even though you've just eaten, you just want to eat more. So leptin resistance is something that we also need to tackle if we want to lose weight. And these inflammatory chemicals from the fat cells feed the cycle. So your fat cells also produce certain inflammatory chemicals which kind of form a vicious cycle. So the more fat you have, the more inflammation you also build. And inflammation will also slow down the thyroid. So your metabolism goes down, and thyroid is responsible in controlling how fast your body burns calories. How good your metabolism is decided by your thyroid, and that also slows down. It also affects your digestion, causing bloating. And when you are bloated, you can also have poor absorption of nutrients. Those nutrients that you're eating, you may be popping the best of best supplements, the most expensive ones. You're eating, a very good, healthy, balanced meal with a lot of protein, a lot of fiber, and all of that. But if your body is unable to absorb it, it will just cause you a lot more bloating, and will make you feel heavier and low on energy. So, the bottom line is that inflammation makes it very hard for your body to burn fat, but it makes it very easy for your body to store fat, and it keeps your metabolism stuck. Now, what are the common causes of inflammation? We've already discussed this in the last session, but I'll, just quickly run through it again. Processed food, all of your packaged food, especially the packaged food that screams of its virtue of health, that's the type of food that causes more inflammation. Refined oils, sedentary lifestyle, poor sleep, gut imbalances, toxins that are coming in from your plastics, pesticides, even your makeup, and of course, emotional stress. Now, how do you know that you have inflammation? Here are a few pathological changes that happen in your body. Number one is more belly fat. Like if you see certain people, they've got very lean arms, very lean legs, but just the belly is kind of bulging out. And when they stand in front of the mirror, on the side, you can literally see the belly standing out. So that's a clear cut sign of insulin resistance. Then another sign is that you're always hungry. There's a constant need to munch, bite, binge on some food or the other. Now, that is leptin resistance. You don't know when to stop eating. Your body is never satisfied. Slow metabolism. That is another sign of inflammation. And there are a few blood tests that you can also get done. And please make a note of this. If you can quickly go and grab a pen or paper, or you could even make notes on your phone. The number one test that you can do is called as C-reactive protein. This is a test that you should get done. Next is fasting insulin. You can also get your vitamin D checked, get your lipid profile, to check for your triglycerides. That will tell us how much of insulin resistance and how bad your liver is. So your lipid profile, TSH levels, and along with TSH, get your free T3 and T4 levels also checked. All right, so these are a few blood tests that I want you to get done. Now, a lot of clients of mine, they struggle with thyroid, struggle with PMS, hair fall, and stubborn fat, especially around the belly area. Now, all we do is focus on gut health, good fats in the diet, and anti-inflammatory foods, which I will come to soon. And you can literally reduce your TSH, from whatever level it is to completely getting it down back to normal. And not just that, you can reduce your waistline, and even PMS can be taken care of. I had a client, she had just undergone a C section, and due to that, she was unable to exercise for a very long time. and she'd gained a lot of fat, especially around the belly area. There was a lot of fatigue, hair fall, and her HbA1c was at 9.7. What we did is we just focused on healing the gut, improving sleep, and we gave her balanced meals. There was nothing fancy, no latest fad diets. Her HbA1c dropped to 7.6 in less than 6 months. Yeah, so we did it in 3 months, and from 9.7 it went to 7.6. And she dropped around 8 kgs in about 100 days, and her sleep also improved drastically. So it is possible with just making simple, sustainable lifestyle changes. All right. Now, what are the key areas that we need to work on? Number one is we need to work on our food. We need to work on our eating habits. So the first tip that I can give you is, instead of starting your day with a cup of chai and with a cup of coffee, have plain water first thing in the morning and eat a fruit or some dry fruits and nuts. Now, this will not just alkalize your gut, but it will also boost your metabolism. It will give you a good bowel movement in the morning, so you feel really good. And this is your first step to fight inflammation. So make sure that you start your day with a glass of water and a fruit or some dry fruits and nuts. Eat your essential fats, especially your ghee. Now, ghee is highly anti-inflammatory. So those of you who are really scared of ghee, that it is fattening, it's very oily, it'll give me acne, or it'll make me feel bloated. When you eat ghee in the right way, you put it on your chapati, or you put it on your paratha, you put it on your rice and you eat it, that's when you reap the best out of the ghee. All right. Next is eat natural probiotics. And what are natural probiotics? All your fermented foods, even your sprouts, even rice has got natural probiotics. So include them in your diet. Don't completely cut out a food group, you know, because just because somebody on social media has said that, rice will spike your blood sugars. Well, rice, when eaten with a dal, eaten with a little bit of ghee, a sabzi, or a lean protein, it in fact gives you a very steady blood sugar. And rice is very rich in probiotics. Honestly, I will tell you, when you eat rice at night and when you have something like a khichdi in the night, you will always wake up with a flat stomach in the morning. You will never wake up feeling bloated. Try it out. Do this for at least about a week. Have khichdi for dinner. Have it a little early, say about before 8:30, and see the results the next day. You'll have a very good bowel movement in the morning, and you will definitely wake up with a flat tummy. The next key area that we need to work on is movement. Aim for a 30 minutes walk or yoga or strength training. It's a must. You need to be as active as possible, because the more you are stationary at one place, the more you're like a piece of furniture. All right. And we don't want to be pieces of furniture. We are people who've got legs and we have to be active. Right. The next very important point that we need to work upon is our sleep. Sleep is something that we really need to focus on, because without that rest that we give to our body, it is impossible for us to recover the next day. And then we feel so exhausted, we're so fatigued in the morning, we've got a underacting thyroid, we've got low metabolism, very slow bowel movements, and your liver is also kind of affected. Okay, so make sure that you sleep for at least 7 to 8 hours every night, and start practicing this. Stay away from all your gadgets at least 30 to 45 minutes before you go to bed. and you will see a huge difference in your progress. You will make a lot of progress if you start staying away, because that blue light that comes from your screens, it shoots up your cortisol levels, it lowers down your melatonin, and this really affects your recovery. And the last very important key area that we need to work on is our stress levels. And how do we manage this? Stress is inevitable, right? It is not in our control, but managing it through deep breathing exercises, journaling, take a break and go for a walk, probably in a park, spend time with yourself, meditating, and that will also help you reduce your inflammation. So make sure you're doing all of this. All right. Now, why does calorie counting fail, especially when you have inflammation? If you're inflamed, your body will hold on to fat even if you eat less. So even if you're eating fewer calories, you have to remove that fire that is causing the inflammation inside. Once that is removed, your body will naturally start letting go of that extra weight. So counting calories is something that completely fails because you're not really tackling the root cause of that fat that you've gained. So, counting calories is not a solution for you if you have inflammation. How do I know if I have inflammation in my body? You may not always feel it, but then there are signs that are there, such as bloating, fatigue, constant tiredness, brain fog, joint pains. Joint pains that cannot be explained. You're popping in a very good supplement of vitamin D, you're having your calcium, but still you're having joint pains. Stubborn belly fat is a huge sign of inflammation. Acne, skin issues, irregular periods, poor sleep, you cannot sleep or you keep waking up, and blood tests that I've mentioned, like your C reactive protein, fasting insulin, and HbA1c, can also reveal that you have inflammation. Food has a major role to play, but also sleep, movement, and stress are equally important. So, what you need to manage inflammation is a lifestyle approach. Anti-inflammatory foods with a good balance of grains, fats, fiber, protein is what you need. Hydration and restful sleep, and of course, emotional regulation. I get a very important question that keeps coming up, and that is, do I need to give up my rice, roti to fight inflammation? Not at all. In fact, your traditional Indian foods, you know, like the rice, roti, ghee, dals, fermented foods, are all anti inflammatory. It is about reducing all that processed food. That is what you need to take away from your lifestyle if you want to bring about real healing, and especially if you want to get rid of inflammation. And how fast can I see results? This is a very, very common question that I get. Many of my clients, they feel better in just about 7 to 10 days because their bloating will reduce. There's better energy levels. There's improved digestion. And visible fat loss can start somewhere between the second and fourth week, depending on how consistent you have been. That's how we can start seeing results, how soon we can start seeing results. So that's about inflammation and weight loss from me today. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions in the chat box, which I will now take, and whatever questions you have, please keep putting it in the chat box. Sandeep, your question about the blood test. Fasting insulin, yes. Lipid profile, TSH levels, T3, T4 levels, vitamin D, you can get your CRP done. The C reactive protein is another test that you can also get done. To It's also an inflammatory marker, so you can get that done. Okay. Can you give us some more effective morning drinks and post meal drinks? Of course. Well, for some who are extremely busy and you don't really have the resources to prepare something in the morning, or you work late nights, I think even a glass of water in the morning to start your day with would be absolutely fine. During the winters, this is something I do, and I also recommend my clients to do, is have a glass of kesar water in the morning. So you have to just put 2 strands of kesar, soak it overnight, and have it first thing in the morning. That is extremely good also for your emotional health. I've seen really good results. It also helps to bring down your cortisol levels. It is very good for your skin and also for your hormones. Post meal drinks, especially in the night, maybe 30 minutes after you've had your dinner, you could do an ajwain and jeera or cumin tea. You could also do a fennel tea, that is badi shape ka pani, that can also be had. It's really effective, not to melt fat. It'll help you with your digestion, it'll help you with your bloating, and it'll also help you to get a good bowel movement the next day. It's hard to get this test done here, but we'll try. Oh, okay. How effective is intermittent fasting? Does it really work? Well, intermittent fasting is one of the latest trends. And as far as inflammation is concerned, the thyroid gland has a very important role to play. Now, when you delay your meal, especially in the morning, your thyroid starts under functioning. So there is a hypoactive thyroid. So there is hypothyroidism that starts setting in. All right. So your metabolism kind of drops. Initially, if you're doing intermittent fasting to just lose weight, you will definitely see results. But then there'll come a point where you will plateau, and the only reason would be that your thyroid has now started under functioning. So the metabolism has dropped. All right. So try and understand that this may work for some, may not work for everyone. All right. So intermittent fasting is still a huge debate. What I suggest is have an early dinner for those who reach home early from work, or who work from home, or who find it convenient to have an early dinner. Have an early dinner. Have it as early as possible, and I think that's a good amount of hours that you get as fasting till you break your fast in the morning with your first meal, with the fruit or whatever that you're having. So a good 10 12 hours of fast that you get through the night is also good enough. um, any effective food that helps to balance thyroid? Yes, and you all will be shocked to hear this. The banana. Now, banana is known to have very high sugars. It's a fruit that can cause weight gain. It can spike your blood sugars. It's been completely demonized. But uh, the banana is not. It does have sugar, and like every other fruit, banana also has got sugar. But besides sugar, it has also got iodine in it, which is needed for your thyroid. So if you have hypothyroid, take your medication in the morning, and about 30-40 minutes later, have a banana. Now I'll tell you why you should be having this. One is because, of course, it's got iodine in it. And the next thing is that thyroid tablet that you take, right? It's a synthetic form of T4, the thyroid hormone T4, which is an inactive form. It needs to get converted to the active form, that is T3. And this happens in the liver. And to kickstart that liver in the morning, you need some fuel, right? And it is not tea or coffee that will kickstart your liver in the morning. It is banana. So have that banana in the morning. It will also boost your, metabolism. It will give you a good bowel movement, and you'll also feel good. So irrespective of whether you have diabetes or thyroid, or you're just a normal person who does not have anything, make it a habit to start your day with a glass of water and a banana. Another very good food for your thyroid is selenium, foods which are rich in selenium. Now, most of the non vegetarian foods do have selenium in them, but one of the biggest sources of selenium is the Brazil nut. Now, some find it very difficult to get it, and it's also slightly expensive. But even if you eat about one or two every day, it really helps with, uh, regulating your thyroid. So, selenium and iodine rich foods are what you should be looking out for if you have hypothyroidism. Okay, yeah, Gunjan's question has come up. How to consider meal proportions in each meal for it to be balanced and weight loss? Okay, now your meals to be balanced, you need to make sure that you follow a very important rule of 3 is to 2 is to 1. 3 is to 2 is to 1. Now, the biggest part of your plate has to be grains and not just raw salads. All right. Now, if you're going to fight inflammation, have a good gut health, and lose weight, you need to follow this rule 3 is to 2 is to 1. A lot of people mess this up and they eat a lot of raw salads first, or they'll have huge amount of protein first and completely cut down the carbs. Now that's something that will give you very temporary results, and you cannot do this in the long run because it's not sustainable. And secondly, eating so much of raw salad is going to affect your gut. All right, so the biggest part of your plate needs to be your grains. It could be millets, it could be rice, it could be wheat chapatis, rotis, you know, that has to be the biggest part of your plate. The second part, that is the two parts of your the plate, has to be your sabzi or any cooked dal or lentils or some sort of a bhaji. Yeah. And the last part is your lean protein. So either chicken or mutton or egg or fish for that matter. So you need to eat in this proportion if you want to see long term results. If you're looking for just short term results, then you can go on a low carb diet, or you can go full keto. You'll immediately see results, but that's not really sustainable. And when you overdo something and you cut out one group of food, like you completely cut down on carbs and you're just eating the lean protein all the time, it's going to affect your gut. That's a big no. So I don't really allow my clients to ever do that. All right, it has to be proper portion sizes and proper portion control. Proportions do matter. So 3 is to 2 is to 1. This is the rule that I follow for my clients. And that will also ensure that you're eating balanced meals. Yeah. And then the sides, that we love our Indian thalis. We have a little bit of pickle, a little bit of raita, a chutney maybe, or a papad. So those are all your condiments that come on the side. But the biggest part of your plate has to be your grains, then is your sabzi or beans or pulses, whatever, or even a raw salad, and last is your uh, the lean protein. Even to absorb the protein from that meal, you need to eat the grains, because without the grains, it's very difficult for your body to break down that protein and to absorb it. Do we need to measure cooked food while putting it in the plate, like in grams? Um, if you want to do that, then we'll have to be going around with a weighing scale, right, Gunjan? So I don't really recommend anybody to do that. What I would suggest is, you when you're eating at home, you kind of know what are your portion sizes, so stick to that. Like it's 1 cup of rice, half a cup of dal or sabzi with 2 or 3 pieces of lean protein. I think that's good enough. What about lean proteins for vegetarians? Very good question. Um, Lean proteins for vegetarian could be your paneer. It's a very good source. Dal along with rice and a little bit of ghee. That's a very good source. Another good source of protein for vegetarians is seeds, and especially the hemp seed. It's got a good amount of protein, so you could always put it in your chilas. You can add it to your poha. You can add it to your upma. You can definitely do it. Yes, tofu is also a very good option, but I don't recommend it because it is processed. It's highly processed. And secondly, in women, it can lead to a lot of hormonal imbalance because tofu or soya beans are very rich in phytoestrogens. So these are phytoestrogens which mimic estrogen in the body. All right, and women can develop increased amount of estrogen, which can lead to weight gain, which can disrupt your skin. It can also lead to a lot of acidity and constipation in some. So that is one of the reasons I don't really recommend tofu. But yes, if you have access to good quality tofu, you can trust the source, please go ahead. It's a very good source of protein as well. Women who are in their perimenopausal phase or menopausal phase, I do recommend soya beans or tofu to them because that's when you really need the estrogen. What about soya chunks? Soya chunks are just a fad. They don't have any protein in them, so it's best to stay away from them. You could definitely do paneer. It's a very good source. You could do different kinds of seeds, nuts. They're also a very good source. All your beans, lentils, pulses, along with grains, will also help to complete those essential amino acids that you need. And suppose you're weight training or you're a very active person, then adding whey protein does not really cause any problems. It's completely harmless. So you could do half a scoop of whey protein in the morning and maybe half a scoop of whey protein in the night if you're not really actively training. Suppose you're doing strength training, then within the first 30 minutes you could have a scoop of whey protein. How many, sorry, how many main meals along with snacks do you recommend? How many main meals along with snacks? Um, when you say main meals, if you mean breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so there are three main meals and about two snacks in between. Say between breakfast and lunch, you could have a snack, and then between lunch and dinner, you should definitely have that snack because that is really important. That's when everybody's blood sugars are fluctuating, and then we're all over the place looking out for every possible junk food that's available. Can ghee be taken as such? Um, Ghee on your chapatis, on your paratas, on your poha, on your dal, definitely. In your opinion, what is important for weight loss? Is it fat loss or BMI or lean muscle or water retention? There are so much of measurements available in the scales and what to look out for. Well, I've had clients who have lost about 8 inches also on their waistline. They've lost 8 inches on their waistline, but did not drop 1 kilo on the scale. They looked so lean. They dropped about 3, 4 sizes also, but the scale didn't move. Now, this is only because the body composition started changing. So the fat went down. And when you lose inches of your waist, be sure that it is fat loss that's happening. And you should really be happy. So I really don't recommend standing on that scale and letting that one number that you see on the scale decide how healthy you are. All right. So when you lose inches, that's the right way of tracking your progress. BMI is another used, measure for health and fitness. But honestly, nowadays, people can be heavier on the scale, but they can look leaner. That is because your muscle and bone density is really good, and you've got good muscle and good bone density and less fat in your body. So you are much healthier compared to a person with a lower BMI as well. All right, so BMI, the number that you see on your scale, are not something that I would suggest you should worry about. What you need to worry about is your inch loss. Keep measuring your inches. Another sign of progress is your gut health. If you wake up feeling good, your sleep is better, you wake up feeling fresh in the morning, you have a good bowel movement in the morning, you're not bloated at the end of the day, you have regular periods, you are getting fitter, you are getting healthier. All right. So look out for these. I know there are so many scales that are available, and every scale tells a different story. Your weight can fluctuate during the day from one scale to the other, also, it can vary. So try not to rely on these scales. Have your own progress card. If this month, the month of May, start has just got over, so if you've seen an improvement in your sleep, that is a huge sign of progress. If you think that your periods have started getting regular, that's a huge sign of progress. So now from the month of June, start tracking these, use these as your progress signs. Is there a limit to the amount of water for hydration? Does more than 5 to 6 liters of water put pressure on the kidneys? Well, the amount of water that you consume depends on a lot of factors. How active are you during the day? Plays a very huge role. What kind of temperature is there right now around you? Plays a very huge role. And also what kind of food you're eating. If you're eating well hydrated food, you're having your ghar ka khana, you're staying away from all the refined flour and biscuits and pizzas and things like that. So these are foods that your ghar ka khana is already food that's well hydrated. So you don't really need to beat yourself up to complete the 2.5 liters that you've set your phone to remind you every now and then. About 1.75 to 2 liters is also good enough. Of course, if you're going to overhydrate, that's definitely going to cause problems even with your gut health. So try and not overdo anything. I meant ghee as such without adding it to rice or chapatis. Like ghee, just having it plain. Well, if you enjoy it, you can definitely do it. There's no harm in having ghee. Okay, I want you guys to post one important learning that you had today from this session. Something that, was that light bulb moment that, was like, oh, this is this is the truth, this is the fact, and this is not a myth. So I just want you all to post that in the chat box so I know what you guys have understood today from this session. Yes, be consistent and enjoy whatever we do. Rice is not the culprit. Yes, very true. You know, In India, we grow over 100 different variety of rice, right? And we export so much of rice. And we cannot blame this rice. It's the way we eat our meals, that needs to be blamed. It's the inactivity that needs to be blamed. It's the constant use of gadgets that we need to blame. It's not the rice. The rice, in fact, is one of the biggest fat loss foods. It's been demonized so much that we're really scared of eating rice. But trust me, rice can do wonders for you if you consume it in the right way. Don't look at the scale. Yes, very true. Don't look at the scale, just be consistent in your efforts. Very true. That's a huge learning we had today. Believe on how you're feeling instead of the scales. Definitely. Yes, if you're feeling that your energy levels are up, you're feeling, you're not feeling fatigued, you've slept better. Yes, that is a huge sign of progress. Okay, there's a question here, and so this is a learning, sorry, not a question. Having carbs is important, right? You cannot just cut out an entire food group from your diet, okay? And when you try to cut it down, you fail miserably. That's very true. And then you end up eating some other junk food, right? You will reach out for that packet of chips, you'll reach out for that packet of biscuits that's in your cupboard lying there for a very long time, and you really feel miserable. I completely understand. So, yes, there's a lot of learning that we had today. Kesar tea was something new to me. Definitely gonna try it. Okay, so you don't need to boil the kesar in the water. You just need to soak it in the night and have it first thing in the morning. All right. Oh yes, a lot of people don't know about it, but kesar or saffron water is very good for us, and especially to fight inflammation and fat loss. Okay. So, in one word, I want you all to tell me how you all are feeling at the end of this reset 14 days program. Today is the 13th day, but I want to know in one word. You can just put it in the chat box. How you guys are feeling, and how it has changed your lives. In the last 14 days, you've put down all your learnings in the on the WhatsApp group, but in one word, if you have to describe it, please put it down in the chat box. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much that you enjoyed this session. Accomplished. Yes, definitely. Enlightened. Wow. One renew for lifelong good health. Yes. So this the reset 14 has come to an end, but we've got a big surprise that's coming your way. You all have come so far, and it means a lot to us that you guys have stayed on track, showed up for yourselves and for your health. So it really means a lot. Showing up for yourselves is something that most of us have stopped doing or forgotten to do, and joining this reset program and being here today has shown us that you really care about your health, even though it's the weekend. And we've been watching all of your progresses. They have all been coming in. If those who have not yet put up your progress reports, please put it up. And we're watching you in a very nice way, not in a creepy way. And we're tracking your efforts. We've honestly noticed that most of you have made really good progress, and before we share tomorrow's feedback and whatever, uh, make a note of what you've learned in the last 14 days. Look back on how far you've come. You know, that itself is a huge progress. And I want you guys to be very proud of yourselves and continue to show up for your health. All right. So that's about it from me today. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining in. It's been a wonderful 2 weeks that we've had. We had a lot of fun planning this entire session of reset, and we're definitely going to come up with something super amazing in the coming days. So stay tuned for more. Keep posting your progress on the chat box, on the WhatsApp groups, and we will all be there to support you. Take care. Bye bye. Good night.